So I feel that you must first understand this excellence is not coming from outside. It's something that's deposited in you, that's flowing. And people are always watching you. They are watching. When you say you're honest, are you honest when I bring a deal that requires you to be dishonest? So it will start with how you present, you present yourself because of the values that you hold that are true.
Because I've been reading the book of Job. Pressy, chapter 1, chapter 2, chapter 3, Hadi chapter 36. God is listening. God is listening. He's quiet. He's listening. He's watching and listening. And I remember and when this revelation came, I was just asking God, can I listen like this?
Something as simple as someone I saw, an influencer saying that even when she's pressed to use the bathroom, she's not there. She's like, why? That's why are you postponing something that's urgent in your body? But 844 we were taught to be like,
hold it.
Yeah, hold it. But she's like, how she goes to the bathroom because of self-love. I love myself to honor my body and be able to help it when it needs to give it what it's requiring.
Close your eyes for just a few seconds. And in those few seconds, think about one word in whichever language that would describe your work, the work that you produce, the work that you do. Now, that one word, if I mentioned the word excellence, would you open your eyes in shock? Like, huh? Are you turning back to see if there's someone behind you that I'm talking to? No, it's you. And welcome to today's episode on the Purpose Exchange podcast about excellence. I am Clara Rincuni.
I'm Pressy Kaburu.
This is a platform that talks about biblical principles that illuminate the marketplace. We have real conversations about the work that we do and how to integrate the work of God, the word of God into our work. If you have not yet subscribed, please do. And if you've subscribed, welcome home. Grab a cup of coffee, tea, and without further ado, we are going into the reflections of the week. Pressy, what's been on your mind?
My reflection for the week has been about life and death. And so I was reflecting on when Moses was telling the children of Israel all the laws that God had given them before they go to the promised land. And he was telling them, okay, choose life and death. It's before you. And this was reiterated also by Joshua. He's like, you guys, whatever you want to do, as for me and my house, we're going to serve the Lord. And I was distilling that to my everyday life and asking myself, do I choose life or death in the decisions that I make? So when I snooze that alarm, when I don't do my devotion, when I procrastinate on things, when I'm watching content I shouldn't be watching, speaking or conducting my affairs in a way that doesn't glorify God, is my life a demonstration of the abundant life God gave us? Or is it a demonstration of either death of relationships, death of my spiritual life, death of some sort, not necessarily physical death? And so my prayer has been like, Lord, help me to choose life. Help me to be aligned to the life that you gave me, because you say you have good plans for me. But am I sabotaging these plans by the decisions that I'm making every single day, So help me be aligned. Yani, just kill this flesh, please. Yeah, because it is speaking loudly. Yeah.
Because sometimes you're the weapon fashioned against.
Yeah, you're like, no weapon formed. And Jesus is like, you're there, send angels to destroy. They're like, are you sure?
Yeah.
How about you?
That's so deep. And that's so heavy because it's in our hands. The choice is with us. Hey, God, help us choose life.
Okay.
As for me, I've been really spending time with God and having a difficult conversation around God's will and ease. I am unlearning the lie that God's will is always easy. That where God sends me, there is yani tu ni easy, you understand? And things will be supernatural. You know, there's like a fantasy that I used to have. And time after time, especially in the difficulties, is when I go back to God and I'm like, God, why is this so hard? It's like, because you're growing, because you're doing, you are right where you're supposed to be, doing the thing you're supposed to be doing with the person you're doing it with. And this is the perfect opportunity for you to demonstrate X, Y, and Z. When we are asking God for instance, patience, the opportunity that is presented for us to exercise that patience is not so nice.
Character development, Pro Max.
You know, the situations that call for us to humble ourselves and prefer the other person, they don't feel good. They are actually, I remember even telling God, I feel like my life is being threatened right now. That if I don't do X, Y, and Z, and God is just bringing me back. You're in my will. It's difficult, but you're in the right place. This thing for coming to ask me, God, is this your... Stop it. Stop it. You know it. Just, it's difficult. And in that difficulty, you will grow. So that's what I've been reflecting on and working on in this season.
That's a word. That's a word for somebody. I'm
Hey,
not saying who,
is
but
that
in this
someone
room.
in the room? Is she in the room with us?
Hako Hafa.
Hey, yeah. So welcome to today's episode, guys. And I would like you guys to write down the word that came up in the beginning of the episode, just so that it's in there, you know, we might have a conversation and then it disappears. Write that word on one side of the page and excellence on the other side of the page. And draw a bridge. We're going to work on that bridge.
And it can be toxic.
You know what? We're not judging.
Yeah.
But there's a bridge. So, Pressy, the word excellence is a loaded word. From your understanding, from your experiences, what does excellence mean to you?
I would start by what it does not mean to me.
Let's go.
And I think for a long time, I used to confuse excellence with perfection. I used to think that to do things excellent, you have to do them perfectly. And sometimes you have to do them perfectly the first time you try it. And if it's not perfect or it's not validated by other people,
failure.
Exactly. But what I'm learning, especially with my work with God, is literally the vision, that the image that God gave me was when let's say you're a parent and your child is in like pre-unit, I don't know what they're called, grade whatever, the school, those ones.
Yeah.
And they're told to draw mommy and daddy and them. When they bring that picture, how does mommy and daddy look like?
They're like, who is this?
Yeah, you know, in Kimeru, say Ben and Koma, they look like they're mad. You know, mom has 3 strands of hair. She's perpetually electrocuted. She doesn't have a shoe. Dad, his arms are never going down. You know, it's not a wonderful picture, but how the child will present it, the parents will be so excited. They'll be so happy. Some parents will even frame it.
Yes.
Others will even take the baby
put it on
out,
the fridge.
you know, frame it, put it on the fridge. And that's how I see excellence as, because this child poured their heart, soul, and mind and imagination in doing that drawing. Was it excellent? No, far from it. Was it perfect? Of course not. But they'll get 10 out of 10 because even when they were drawing, they were excited. When they showed the teacher, they were excited. The parents were excited. And for me, excellence is more about the effort behind it. And so when I look at how God defines it, I think God looks at us like those parents. Like, you've done your best and you're, at the end of the day, you're like, me, God, and then his homies with the angels are like, wow, look at what my daughter has done. But you're there, God has 3 hairs and, you know, he's like this electrocuted and he doesn't have a shoe. But to him, it's like, I'm so proud of this work. I'm so proud because he saw the heart posture. So I would say excellence is not more of the output. To God, it's more about the heart posture, that you're doing it with one soul, mind, with all your effort. You've put the best in it, and it might not be the best to everybody else. But him, he has seen this chick poured everything and she did everything. And that to him is excellent. But of course, there's a way the world defines excellence, which I'm sure we'll get into.
Yeah.
How about you?
As you're saying, there's a way the world defines excellence. I was like, Clara, are you the world? You know? But, and I, as you were speaking, 100% agree. And I was just like, it's so interesting how we have different perspectives. And I think it comes out even in how we, I don't know, sometimes how you approach things. Because for me, I'm like, output.
Yeah.
Output. But I think it's the combination of both. So as you're listening, you know, going back to when I think about Clara, you are beautifully and wonderfully made, that you are my handiwork. And I remember when God was creating man, or rather everything God created, he said it is good. For me, excellence is that flow of the idea. So the idea is to make man, and then making man beautifully and wonderfully, and counting it good. So for me, what I count as excellent is the whole three. So sometimes I might have an idea, but it stops there. For me, that's not excellent. Or I might have an idea and I do it, but is it beautifully and wonderfully done? It's done. And I say, you know what? It's done. For me, that's not excellent. But there are things and tasks that I have the idea, it has been beautifully and wonderfully done. And when I look back, I say, that was good. Even if you told me, even if I knew a new way to do it tomorrow, today I did the best that I could. Yani, all my knowledge, all my education, all my wisdom, I applied on that thing. So for me, that's how I count. That's how I define excellence. The three of them. For me, excellence is heavily output based, but it's also how I'm wired. So I'm like, thank God I'm not alone because I might be, sometimes being too much on one side can really put you in error, because Pressy, there are times when your best is not output wise the best, but let's get into that a bit later. And you were talking about how the world defines excellence. Maybe you can share with us a bit more about that.
I would say the world defines it as output based. And I was meditating upon this a few weeks ago when the Bible says work unto the Lord. God just doesn't say work, you work. Perpetually, forever, just work. He says work unto me, because when you're working unto the Lord, He's the one who has the final say. Because when you work unto man, and what I've seen even in corporate, good is never good enough. Yeah. Let's give an example of guys who are in banking. I have a very good friend who's in banking. I'm telling you, she'll ace all her KPIs. She'll get all the clients. She'll do everything. Now she has new KPIs. It's never enough.
They keep moving the goalpost.
It's never enough. The bottom line is never enough. Like, are we in hell? Do we need to get to hell for the bottom line to be the bottom? It's like, okay, now there's another competitor, so we need to ramp up the KPIs. There's another market share threatener, so we need to, so man is never satisfied. And if we even look at the story of creation, so I go back to that story that you've told us about when God created everything that he created, he said it was good. Who was he telling?
Himself.
He said it was good. But when we look at creation, I'm sure a lot of us have thoughts about creation. God, why does that giraffe have to have the neck that the giraffe couldn't have a lower leg?
Yeah.
Why did you create snakes? Why rats? Why millipedes? Why
Not the rats?
We have so many thoughts. And even men. They're like, when in my journey of love walk, I sometimes I wake up and I ask God, God, you even love this one? Lord, even this one, even because I'm like, how can you love this one? Like how, like you have to give me that heart to see them the way you see them.
Yeah.
When you created them, you said it was good. Please help me see that, because me, I'm not seeing any good. I'm seeing other things. And even me, there are days where you feel like you've fallen so short, you're so undeserving, you're so unlovable, you have all these shortcomings, but God still loves you. God doesn't care about all that. And I think it's so important even for believers, because especially in Africa, I'm sorry to say, we've been indoctrinated in this culture of output. Well, I guess also in the Western world, you're as good as what you produce. You're as good as your next big creative idea. You're as good as your award. So what happens to you, Clara? God forbid you're disabled and you can't produce.
Girl.
What happens to you? Are you still going to be able to do anything excellent? And again, also, excellent, is it just about output? Or you can have excellent relationships, excellent ideas, excellent mindsets. So I used to be such a doer, hardworking doer, and God had to really fix that, because my identity was so much tied to my output that if nobody is clapping for me, nobody is telling me well done, nobody is like, Pressy, that idea, that presentation, that deck, that this, anything good was attached to an output. It was not, Pressy, you're enough. You're good as you are. So I would say how the world has defined it is very output based. But there are places where, and God is not saying that he's not an output God, because he says he's going to bless the work of your hands. So you must work for him to bless something and for it to have the markings of the blessings of the Lord, so that we can say, hey, that work is amazing. He says he delights in the prosperity of his servants. So he wants us to prosper. But I think before we get there, there's this part of you're already good enough. Whether you have hands, you don't have hands, you have feet, you have a deformity, you're blind, you're whatever, you're still good enough, because when I created you, you're good. You're my child, you're good. If you never do anything for me and my kingdom, I'll still love you. I didn't create you to be an output machine. I want you to first have a relationship with me. And then as you're having a relationship with me, you'll have that desire to go and cast demons and do this and build structures and systems and all that. So I feel like I want to encourage anyone who's listening that pray that God releases you from that mindset, because the day that noise goes cold, the day the accolades stop coming, the day nobody is looking for you, your phone is silent, you've been churned out by the system that you've put your life into, that is how, and me and you have seen this, especially in the advertising industry. People, they commit suicide, because what is my value then?
There's no meaning.
There's no meaning. So that's how I think that the world has defined, because they also don't have capacity to be like, you know, those cultures where they say they value you as an individual, but they really don't. We value you as an individual as long as you're meeting your quota. If you don't meet your quota and you're having family problems, they are quickly trying to replace you. So I feel like what has happened to me is I've become so relational oriented to look at the individual beyond that which they can do for me. Because even networking is like, what can I do? What can you do? There's always a transaction and a value exchange. We just can't be. And I love something my auntie says, Aunt Joy, Dr. Joy, is that God created us to be human beings, not human doings. You're called to be a being, to experience life, to just be. The doing comes later, but now we've gotten the other way, like we're such human doings. You're always doing. That's why we don't understand rest. That's why we don't know how to surrender. That's how we can't trust God, because that's how the system of the world has created that, you're taking a day off on Sunday to close your business. You can't do that. And somehow your business's excellence or your business's success is what makes you excellent. But we know as believers, there are people who are doing funny things in the middle of the night, running around at 3 a.m. to make sure that businesses, are they excellent? Because everybody is seeing how their business is prosperous. I don't think so. So again, I would say again, it goes back to the posture of the heart when you're working unto the Lord, because anything you do when you work unto the Lord and you're working it with one mind, God is going to be so proud. God is going to be so happy. He's going to be that parent. You've presented your best with the 3 hairs, and he's like, rest, I'm so happy. And he'll bless that little. He'll bless that very small one that you have done. But if you work unto man, the goalposts will keep moving. The bottom line is never bottom enough. You know, the revenues are never good enough for the shareholders. Like, there's always a greater appetite. Oh, you can do this. Let's amp up our appetite. And I think that's where you burn out. Because the Bible says, cursed is the man who trusts in man. Man will always let you down. Even good men, like Christian men, and not men like a man.
Human beings.
Yeah. Because there's our flesh, there's a greediness. There's lack of contentment. We always want more. Otherwise, if we were very holy, Joe, we would not be buying new clothes every month. Yeah, we would be contented with the clothes we had when our parents bought us. Yeah, you know, so that's how I would define it. What about you?
That's such a good definition, because haven't we all experienced that? You know, and it's not for lack of trying. You know, I mean, you enter a system, you pick the rules, and you think that those rules are ultimate rules until God just saves you. But it's by the grace of God. Because if it's not by the grace of God, we would have been running that rat race. You're there on that hamster wheel. Shwee. And how depressing that was. I don't know why I've just remembered. And I'm like, hey, thank God for saving. And I think to add to that, one of the things that I would call a worldly definition of excellence is a focus on material. So there's in the world, or rather in society, not saying that this is wrong or right, it just is. There's a hierarchy. You know, there are types of jobs that are perceived to be better than others. There are types of rewards that are perceived to be better than other rewards. And the system has defined excellence as getting those rewards. For instance, awards, for instance, you know, a raise in lifestyle. There are those accolades that are like social markers of quote unquote excellence. But if you look beyond the accolades, it's like the system has rewarded, but is this excellent? You know, when you look beyond the lifestyle that has been awarded to, for instance, the person who bills the most hours, or it's because I mean, we're in the workplace, we're in the marketplace, we know what gets rewarded and what doesn't get rewarded. But one thing that Christ has really worked in me is an awareness that even the things that don't receive rewards are excellent. You know, those things that you do, like for instance, tending your plants. Tending your plants, you won't get paid. You won't get, some plants are not even pretty to look at, like the, hey, no offense, snake plant. Now my snake plant might have even had this in the grapevine. But there are some plants that just exist to exist, as you're saying, to be. But the world has created as an association with rewards such that excellence is what gets rewarded. But if you never get those rewards, there are some people who are great workers but don't have the money, don't have the awards, but their work is excellent. Does that not count? You know, so I think for me, that's one thing, in addition to what you've shared, that I've also come to unlearn and relearn, that the work, when God was designing work, he was not designing capitalism. This is not just it, in that everything that we are doing, God counts it as work. Tending to the creation, taking care of your pets, that is work. And that counts, And how do you do that then? As how you do everything. I remember one former boss I had, he used to say, how you do one thing is how you do everything, whether you know it or not. In the things that you are not being paid for, how you do those things is a clearer marker on how you work. How faithful are you in taking care of, for instance, the plants that might not even have fruit? How faithful are you in taking care of your pets, if you have pets? How faithful are you in taking care of your environment, that space that you have, your desk, your house, So I have come to start seeing excellence in as an attitude also. Actually, as an attitude mostly, that then inspires the production of things, because I do think that it is seen. I struggle with a definition of excellence that is not visible, because how else do you know? Even as a person, it's like, how do you know something is excellent if it is not
seen?
If it's not done, you see, not necessarily for money, but if it's not executed. And could I be in the realm of works? Maybe, but I mean, we are at work, so.
And we are growing.
We are
that's
growing.
the most important thing.
Yeah.
I just want to point out something we were taught in class last week, where the teacher was saying that even the people who bring revival to the nation, you'll never know them. And when I was thinking about this topic, to your point where you say the evidence of excellence should be visible, let's take a great preacher, for example, Joshua Selman. He's an amazing preacher of the word. But for him to have gotten there are so many people behind him who ensured excellence in the milestones that he achieved. So I would think about maybe the bishop of the church the mom went to, taught the mom how to raise a child with an anointing, taught her how to bring the child to church, taught how to speak life to the child. This child grew up, they were provided and taken care of. The teacher in school spoke life over him, taught him how to excel in studies. He achieved that milestone. Then talk about the peers who also grew up with him, spoke life. But do we know all these people behind the great measure of success? No. So while I understand where you're coming from, I go back to that point where we were taught that even the greatest men and women of God, for example, even the people, like some of the people that I hear in corporate who save companies, are some guy in the dungeon somewhere that you don't know him. You'll just find out about him when a book is written, but it's not the highest flying top achiever. And to your point, that's why I think it's an attitude. I agree with you 100%, because then all believers who operate in the spirit of excellence, we would be known in the map. We would be on Forbes. We would be, there would be great markers. We would be great men and women of the world. But there's some very excellent. In my journey with work, I've met excellent teachers of the words who are in the village.
But they are known. By known, I didn't mean popular, but I mean experienced. That your circle of influence. I can't keep it in me. Otherwise, is that excellence? So if I'm a great teacher of the word, then I must teach. And that excellence must be experienced by the people that I'm teaching. If I am a cobbler, then my excellence must be felt in every shoe that has passed through my hand. And the reason why I added that is because I feel that in the body of Christ right now, that's a big challenge that we are experiencing, in that you have the spirit, yes, but where is it when we are now in the office? You understand? Or where is it when we've now been put in a project that we should do, and you come on the merit of an accountant, but you don't want to do the accounting?
I get you. Yeah.
let's do,
Yeah, like to what we were speaking last week, like I think most Christians don't believe there is room for that. It's like we are here, so me, I'm coming to pray in tongues, prophesy over people, prayer meetings. But the work you've been hired to do, you don't do it. You don't do it. And so you've here, I'm sure you've heard this of me, I can't work with a believer because lunchtime wako prayer hour, 10 o'clock wako prayer hour, 4 o'clock wako prayer hour. But the atheists are here on time and they work and they do an excellent job, but you don't show the glory of God in that capacity.
Absolutely. And I think that's such a good segue into the next part of our discussion, where we are talking about people who have manifested that spirit of excellence. And I will throw it to you. We can talk about the Bible first, and then we'll talk about real life examples. About a person who is now embodying the thing we are talking about. Right now we're just talking, and someone is like, hey, you ladies, are we in the same konti moja?
Yeah.
But there are real life people in the Word of God and also in our lives today that we can say that, hey, you look at the work that they do and how they do it. They're believers. But you don't have to, you see, excellence as a believer is not Jesus, 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 Jesus. I mean, there is a way that you can work that people will glorify your God and even inquire, there's something about you. What is it about you? And, by that point, you don't even need to do so much preaching. They even want to come to the church that you come to because clearly there's something. Thoughts?
I've been thinking about who can I mention because the ones I feel like I know are not even believers.
You know what? Yeah, start with the biblical.
Yeah. Let's start with the Bible. I think, of course, definitely I would say Jesus. I know the Bible specifically mentions the spirit of excellence resting on specific people. And when I see that context is when they were doing a specific task. But I look at Jesus in the spectrum of, even in the corporate world when he was in the marketplace, because he was in the marketplace all the time. He did his deliverance excellently. The fact that he would, I think it's in Luke or John that says that the Pharisees were looking for him to trap him, but they couldn't because when he spoke, the feeling they had was of awe and magnificent, as in they were dumbfounded by what he was saying. They didn't even have the basis to arrest him because he was so good at what he did, and he did it with a heart unto the Lord. I see him doing it like, God, you sent me, I've come and done the will of my Father. I only had one mission, I've come and done the will of the Father. And even looking at his journey at the cross, he would have been like, let me switch to the God side. Sita scale chungo. I'm calling those angels. But he submitted and 100% allowed himself to go through it as 100% man. And he forgave them. He was demonstrating, love to the last point where you're like, man, why? Just, watetemeshe kidogo. And someone else I also see is David. I say David because it's easy to say, okay, but Jesus was Jesus. David was a man like us, and he made mistakes, killing his friend, having a relationship with this lady, and many other mistakes that he did. But I look at him as a character of excellence because he always inquired of the Lord. He really didn't make many moves outside asking God, should I go and fight these guys? Should I go and overtake them? Should I do this? Should I do that? And God is... in the Bible, the only person who's called a man after my heart was David. I don't even think it said that of Jesus. He said, this is a man after my heart, because he loved God, and thank God for that heart, because we have the whole Psalms to see how real he was. And he would show his frustration. And so it shows me an excellent, intimate relationship of a man walking with God. He didn't pretend. Yeah. He was real. When he was scared, he was saying he was scared. When he was not feeling strong. And I always look at these kings, especially him. Where did he get the training to be a king? Even Saul, they didn't have a training to be kings. They sort of like just landed in there. But because of how well he ruled, his son enjoyed quite a huge amount of time of prosperity and peace because of the efforts of David. Like David laid the groundwork and tilled that land so that the future generation can enjoy his sweat. In terms of the corporate world, I will give it to two of my bosses. One of my bosses was called Riku and the other was called Grace Karuga. And I mentioned them because of how they handled us as a team. It was a different type of leadership skill set because in the advertising industry, it's a lot of fear. The brief comes at 5 in my day and age, you'd stay. There was no going home. There was no like, but my contract says. It was like a jump. How high and which part of my body do you want to break? There were no questions asked, but there was a lot of compassion. There was a lot of, these are leaders that I saw fighting for the team to the point where if there was an inevitable coming of them losing the job, they're like, fine, but you're not going to mess with my team. You're not going to come. I remember like Riku allowed me to go to school every Wednesday for 2 years to finish my psychology diploma without any repercussions to my salary, without any repercussions to my leave. And I say it's excellent because even when it was challenged, he was able to still fight for me. So I look at them as relational. And because they were so considerate of us and they empowered us so much, I'm telling you, the team used to do 100 plus 10. We would be like, we are at war with this boss. You say anything bad about them, we are going to come at you, because of how they treated us. So that to me was a marking of excellence because it was spoken in the work. Like what they poured in us is what we gave 100% in our work. Yeah. Back to you.
And it's so interesting how ni kama kinaya. Do you understand? Hey, irony.
Hey,
Let me tell you, I think in 3 languages. English, Kiswahili, and Kimeru. So there are some things.
I've never heard that word. Kinaya.
So kinaya, it's the irony in sometimes when you give more, you get more, And most people think if I hold on, if I pinya these guys, I'll get more out of them. But that's just in response to your to what you've shared. For me, the biblical examples that stood out to me, I think also because of resonating with who they are and how they've done their journey. My first person is Luke. Luke, the physician. This is a man who was not even like a preacher, a rabbi. I mean, he was a physician, and he got to get saved and serve the apostles, served Paul, and he was just someone hanging around, It's like, no offense, but for me, I really see excellence in Luke because when Luke was writing the book of Luke, it was an inspiration from his heart. You know how you just feel, and he even said it seems good. It seemed good
for me to
write this. And he's writing to his friend who also got saved to try and understand. Now, okay, the other, there's different accounts, but let me try and write a chronological happening, from the beginning to the Nini, finished the book of Luke and also followed the apostles as they were setting up the church, the early church. And this is someone who, first, because of his natural wiring, he's just a really good documenter. He just documents stuff. And then also he values order. This happened, then this happened, then this happened. So imagine what that took to write those 2 books. And you see him, he was not a disciple. So he's going, and you, when did you say this one happened? Okay. And then I was just like, God, I want to be used of you in such a unique way, that there's a way you've created me. And my second person is Matthew, the tax collector.
Oh, man.
And I'm like, at first I was like, hey, this guy is so detailed. And that time maybe autism didn't exist. And people are just thinking this guy is so weird. He writes down everything. He's so detailed. And you find that sometimes in our society, we really don't appreciate our own quirks. And we are so quick to diagnose our blessings. You get? Sometimes because we are different, we are trying to see, is there a illness or, sometimes it works. Sometimes it's good to spot out the differences, but sometimes it's good to let God, because someone like Matthew really documented the genealogy, and that was valuable in proving to the Jews that this is indeed the Messiah. So then I look at the work that I do and I ask the Lord, what is it about me, how you've created me, that is part of the things that you will use for advancing your purposes, that I try not to change myself too much. Because sometimes even in the faith, there's this idea of all Christians must, all believers must. And in that trying to be same, then what are we saying about the Lord's work? What are we saying about the Lord's handiwork? So in as much as I reflect inward, I am also reflecting outward, that Lord, help me handle each and every person's uniqueness in the dignity and in the honor that each requires, not to try and make people fit into my idea of how things should be or how the society says things should be. So those two really stand out, mostly because I relate with them. And then in real life, I will think about two people, same as you. The first was my first boss. He was called Martin. Well, not was. He's still he's still alive and kicking, doing very well. He's called Martin Carrier. And he owned the agency that I was hired into. And one thing that stands out to me that I still remember to date is that in a world that was so dishonest, Martin was honest. He would tell you the truth. He'll tell you, by the way, X, Y, and Z. And at that time, I didn't really appreciate it. Neither did I find it kind. I felt that, okay, you could have said it a bit better. You could have. But he was just very forthcoming. If you ask, you will get a response. And in a world where people really used to take you round in circles, he really was like, this is actually why this is happening, X and Y and Z, or this is what I'm seeing. And I really, really value that, even to date. And he's the first of all my bosses. I've actually, and sometimes it's good to also acknowledge a good thing, that all my bosses have always been honest. By the way, brutally so, and just telling you, by the way, this is what it is. And that honesty really helps you grow. It's difficult, but it's the truth. You're able to work forward. And I also found that in that time, yes, I knew he was a believer, but I knew he was a believer after I left the agency. At that time, I didn't really care. But I was like, oh, he's a Christian. This makes sense. That's why he was the way he was. He, in our agency that was plagued with alcoholism, he never used to drink. But he also never used to make anyone feel like a sinner. And I think in hindsight, I think that's a really great gift for a believer to walk in righteousness and not condemn other people and not make other people feel, unworthy, which is when sometimes I also struggle with. And I remember even telling my sister, this year I'm working on being right with God, but not walking as if I am better than anyone else, because it creeps up in your mind. But I remember him, and he used to interact with all of us, try and make us better. But if you're not boarding the bus, it's fine. The second person that I find exemplifying the ways of Christ, I know her. I know she's a believer. She's called Sila. She was my mentor. I still consider her my mentor. Mediation. By profession, she's a probation officer, and she's also a mediator with very many courts in our country. Pressy, that woman moves with excellence. In every case I've watched her manage, excellence in how she deals with the parties. Some parties who I'm like, that one is the wrong one. But if you see how she's taking care of all of their needs in the session, and also trying to help them resolve, and also her conversation post-session. And you hear how people talk about other people. But in spending time with her, I have seen that you can actually have a tongue that builds people up even in their absence. That even when you've seen, yani, mimi nimeona kenye umeona, but you have really kind words, you know. And I keep telling God, Lord, use my tongue to speak well of people, not even about them, but about you. How do you see these people? How do you see this conflict? How do you see this case? Her being someone who deals with criminals, but how she speaks about them. I'm like, I even feel like I speak badly about the work that she does, because she's like, I don't deal with criminals. I deal with people. And I'm like, man, excellent. And as we are wrapping up, Pressy, what are the actionable things that you have practiced and that you practice to keep that spirit of excellence alive, and also honor the excellence that the Lord has imparted on us? Because I do believe that it's good to share. You know, it's your Siri. You know, it's your Siri.
Don't gatekeep.
Yeah. And also I feel that the strategies that the Lord gives us sometimes can be of use to other people. Yeah.
I would say the biggest thing, especially this year and a bit of last year, that has helped me become excellent is self-awareness. Because sometimes you can chop down excellence to be third party, like how I'm relating with people, or what does my work say about me, but we never think about it coming from us internally. So, like, for example, when you were talking about Martin, what the thought that came to my mind is that, am I also excellent with myself? Do I, in terms of, do I have integrity with my word? When I say I'm not drinking, you won't find me in the corner doing something. So I'm excellent in how I even treat myself. I am kind to myself with the words that I use, the thoughts that I have. Something as simple as someone I saw, an influencer saying that even when she's pressed to use the bathroom, she's not there. She's like, why? That's why are you postponing something that's urgent in your body? You know, but 844 we were taught to be like,
hold it.
Hold it. But she's like, how she goes to the bathroom because of self-love. I love myself to honor my body and be able to help it when it needs to give it what it's requiring. So I feel that you must first understand this excellence is not coming from outside. It's something that's deposited in you, that's flowing. And people are always watching you. They are watching. When you say you're honest, are you honest when I bring a deal that requires you to be dishonest? So it will start with how you present, you present yourself because of the values that you hold that are true. I don't speak negatively about people. I don't gossip. When the tea is hot, we'll be like, this one time because this tea is piping. You get? So that is a great example of excellence, because sometimes you want it to be excellent, like I built a beautiful building and it's standing for 10 years, 30 years. But it's even that person, it starts with themselves. They are honest with themselves and they hold themselves to account. Then the second thing is also being open to feedback. There's something that T, when he came on the show, he said that every single day he asks that, is my work good? That he reflects the whole day and is like, did I do good work according to me? Because there is a way that I will do that it's not good to you.
Yeah.
But if it's good to me and my conscience is clear, I believe God accepts it as worship.
Yeah.
Like if you're giving me 2 bob and you want me to make ugali, rice and chicken buffet with my 2 bob and I can't, it's impossible. So with the 2 bob that I have, did I do the best that I can do with this 2 bob? True. And this is the best that I could do with this 2 bob. I did it with my whole heart and my attitude was clear. I believe God receives it. So the other thing that I would say is a mindset shift. One thing that I prayed is I told God, I don't want validation from men, because I have been breathing and being reliant on validation of men. And when it doesn't come, it's so harmful. So I want you to be the one that validates me, so that when I do something, and I'll give you so many examples, Clara. I've been published. People that I would expect to say well done didn't say. Then if I had counted on that, it would have really broken me, and I would have been like, was this not good enough? Yes, it's not Forbes, it's not the time, it's not this. But this for me was amazing, even to get this opportunity, because the heart of man is wicked. Sometimes people won't say that, because not even because they're wicked, they have life going on. Yeah. So I had to change my mindset shift to be like, first I need to be aware. Then I need to be open to feedback that other people can also hold me accountable. But the biggest accountability partner is God. That I go at the end of the day and I'm honest with him and be like, God, I didn't do that thing because I was scared. I felt like I was going to fail. I want to do it perfectly the first time. And I have to remind myself that you're not looking for perfection. Because the other thing I didn't mention is excellence has to do with dependency. Godly excellence has to do dependency, because perfection means you don't need anybody. You're self-sufficient, yeah. But God has not called us to a place of perfect. I think the only place he tells us to be perfect is be holy because I'm holy. Or walk in love. But even that, he knows it's a training ground. So if excellence is accountable to perfection, then it means you'll never need God. You'll never need God and you're self-sufficient. But excellence has to do with dependence from God. Because there are many times even the Israelites would go and some of them would bring funny things back to the camp and they would have consequences. But to David is like, but we've done things excellently. What's not happening? So a lot of dependability on God, a change of mindset to know that I'm working unto God. So every day I wake up, I'm like, God, there's so many, all these expectations, but help me meet your expectation, because I can do this best and they'll still fire me. I can do the best and they'll change the goalpost. I can do the best and it will not be good enough. I can do the best. It's best for this person. It's worst for this person. So help me work unto you, because at the end you'll tell me, well done, good and faithful servant. And that is all that I will need, because I was good according to you and I was faithful with what you gave me, and to you that was amazing. So a lot of mental, for me, it's not like, and the last thing is growing my skill set, growing knowledge. Just look what we've been talking about this whole series. Read books, engage with people who are more wiser than you, more, accomplished than you. Learn from them, learn from their mistakes, and just upskill. Iron sharpens iron. So have sharper irons than you that are sharpening you where you're blunt, be it in a skill set, in whatever area that you need help. That's what I would say in a very big, long nutshell. And you?
A beautiful nutshell that was. And to add to what you've shared, what I was thinking about was first, and it's connected to your point on dependence on God. Ask. Mm-hmm. Ask. A revelation that I've gotten as I read the word of God is, God is my father. I am his daughter. And if I'm his daughter, I look like him. I have his genetics. I have the bloodline of Christ. Tukinikata, niko na DNA ya
Yes,
Jesus. What does that really mean? Is that, because I've been reading the book of Job. Pressy, chapter 1, chapter 2, chapter 3, Hadi chapter 36, God is listening. God is listening. He's quiet, he's listening. He's watching and listening. And I remember and when this revelation came, I was just asking God, God, can I listen like this? He's like, I'm your father. So, and
to just on to that, you know, Job, that story is not 7 days. It's like 2 years.
It's long.
Like he went through that thing for like 2 years. It wasn't like Leo, kesho. So God was listening for like 2 years.
He was listening, considering, saying,
not taking.
I'm like, my God, am I even able to listen like this? Or in chapter 1, verse 3, would I say,
hold up. Wait a minute.
And one thing God has been telling me is that you're my daughter. The things I can do, you can also do. You just have to ask. So I've been working on asking and retraining my mind to read the word as God as my father. And the things I admire about him, I can ask him to teach me. So right now I'm like, God, teach me how to listen like you. I know sijafika mahali, but nianzishe tu. Let me start where I am. And the same thing with excellence. God is excellent. He's your father. You're his child. Uko na hiyo DNA. Uko na genes. It's like being the child of an athlete. Ani ati ujaanza tizi. Ukianza utajua, When you start training is when you're differentiated. You get. But ask the Lord for excellence in the things that you do and even in your attitude. Ask God to help you see how to do things his way, how to do things better, how to grow. Like even in the things that we're talking about, honestly, I would say you can spend your money, but before you do, just talk to the one who created you because he's the one who knows your growth plan best. And then in line of awareness, I also invite each and every one of us to get the support that we need. There's no shame. There's no shame in getting accountability partners. If it's in your line of work, get people who can sharpen you and challenge you and tell you, by the way, ikitu iko chini na iko chini, do better. But if you surround yourself with people who think you are the greatest, RIP, man. But surround yourself with people who challenge you. Surround yourself with people who are also growing themselves. Because in their growth, you're also learning. And in your growth, they're also learning. And lastly, don't be shy to pay to grow those skills. If you need a life coach, if you do need a course, if you do need tools, we're in the technology age, there is a better way to do the thing that you're doing. Invest. Invest, I don't know, that 2K to get that platform that will make your images better if you're a graphic designer. Invest in that platform that will help you with grammar, like Grammarly, if you're a writer, like, we are. If you are doing strategy and there's a training, upskill, because God truly calls us to spend on wisdom. Get that wisdom. Get that wisdom. And if that wisdom is in upskilling, if that wisdom is in the saints, your friends, expose yourself to that. And last and not least, please don't be attached to versions of yourself. That you're so rigid, you're defending yourself so much. It's okay. You can change. You can change. It's allowed. And I tell myself, you know what? It's okay. I've not done this well today, but I'm going to work on it and do better tomorrow. It's okay. God, I'm really struggling with, maybe for instance, doing this thing in this amount of time, but maybe if I keep on doing it, I'll do better. But if I'm so stuck on defending why I'm doing it in this amount of time, sinaona hapo kesi ni kama imeisha before hata ianze. But yeah, please, if you have not yet subscribed, but we are here looking at each other, my friends.
That's not the spirit of excellence. An excellent person will like, share, subscribe.
Banze, macho kwa macho. Tunaangaliana tu hapa na uja subscribe. Please subscribe. And yeah, we hope to see you in the next episode. Please put it in the comment section. What you thought through the episodes, your revelation. We would also want to grow with you and hear from you. Follow us on all our platforms. Kuna kitu sijaambia wageni wetu.
I want a parting shot.
Parting shot, banner subscribe. Anyway, parting shot is, guys, we're believers. Please, let's just do better let's do better for the world. Let's do better for each other, for our families. There's no one who will lose if we grow and if we are sharpened. My call is, if we can all try a little bit better to be as excellent as our Father, I think we will really go so far. Because if I try, you try, and as I'm watching you try, ata mimi nasema, okay, ata you na try, you see, we are really sharpening each other. And that's my call, that we are believers. We have the Spirit of God in us. I really think that is the biggest deal, that Christ went to heaven, he's mediating for us, and he left us the Holy Spirit, that we can do much more than he did on earth. Am I doing much more than Christ did on earth? Not yet. Why? I think short.
I would say allow yourself to evolve. And you've given such a good example about the athlete. When the athlete is born, he's a baby or she's a baby. They're doing babyish things. They have to crawl before they walk. So they perfect the crawling. Then they become excellent in the walking. And then they train their body with good diet, sleep, trainers. They pay for trainers for them to become an excellent athlete. And when they are running, they're not running thinking of their sugar plantation. They are there 100% in the race, fixed on the goal. They are not double-sided. So that is the example that I want to leave you with, that allow yourself to evolve. Sometimes you're measuring yourself with that trained athlete and you've not excelled even in the crawling. So crawl fast. Stop being in a rush. God is not in a rush, by the way. He's a God of a process and mtaratara. Allow yourself to evolve and let go, to Clara's point. If you're in the athlete, stop still over there thinking about the crawler and the walker. You're now on a greater height, and we think differently on a greater height. We do things differently. Allow yourself to also release those parts of you that were crafted and were required for you to get here. Goodbye.
Subscribe.
Yes. See you.
Bye.